Hi everyone, and welcome back to Learning Media Skills, and today we're going to continue our ongoing series on how to edit videos using DaVinci Resolve from Blackmagic. And this is actually lesson 7, and so if you are brand new to the concept of editing videos on a computer, you might want to go back and take a look at the first 6 lessons so that you'll understand what's happening in this lesson. And I'll put a link to the playlist for that series in the description just below this video. And if you feel the need, just go ahead and watch those first 6 videos to kind of lay the foundation for what we're going to do today. All right, so today we're going to actually start assembling a real-life video project. I just recently finished a couple weeks ago. I believe that as you follow through with assembling this little video project, that by the time that we're done, you'll have a good understanding of how to edit videos using DaVinci Resolve. First of all, let's go up and grab our interview. This is actually a short documentary about a lady in Kenya who's living in a remote region where they have experienced 5 years of drought, if you can imagine what it would be like. And so last fall I went to the county where this was happening and interviewed a number of people, and this elderly lady of about 72 years of age had a very interesting story, and we'll use her story as a sample of how to edit videos in DaVinci Resolve. So the first thing we'll do is grab her interview and place it on the timeline, and you can do that with a simple drag and drop. We see that we have way too many audio tracks. We certainly don't need 4 tracks of audio for her interview, so let's get rid of the bottom 3 at least. And the way that you can do that is by, on the Mac, holding down the Option key. You can simply lasso the bottom 3, and because you have the Option key held down, you're not going to be selecting the video layer itself or even the first track of audio, because we only lassoed the bottom 3. And when you see that they're selected there, you can just hit the delete key and they're gone. Now we just have the top track of audio, and we could probably get away with just using this audio because I had my onboard Rode mic on top of my camera that was picking up fairly decent audio, and I was fairly close to the lady. Could have probably gotten away with just using this audio, but I see that there's a little wind noise and that type of thing. So I think we're going to use the high quality audio that I also recorded at the same time using a very high-end boom mic that I had my translator hold and have close to her. So let's go after that audio and sync it up. So we go down to our audio bin, and here's the audio from the boom mic. And when I'm using a boom mic that's recording to a separate audio device, I always like to do a kind of a clap as I'm starting the interview. This would be the same concept that is used in the Hollywood when they use a clap board to start each scene. The idea is to sync the video up with professional audio that's being recorded to a separate device. So we can see our clap showing up here with a big spike in the audio waveform, and we can expand the audio tracks out just by grabbing the bottom portion of that so we can see our clap better on the boom mic, and then it's just a matter of syncing them up. And in order to get this very precise, what I like to do is expand out the timeline. Now you can do that with the little slider bar up here, or if you have defined some shortcuts like I have showed you in another video, and maybe I'll put that link to the keyboard shortcut video in the description below as well, so you get an idea of what I've done to make this a little easier using keyboard shortcuts. Because we have the timeline expanded out to its maximum, it's very easy to line those up. Now, because we have the good boom mic, we don't need to have the camera audio at all. And so let's replace the camera mic with the boom mic audio track. And to do that in a way that we won't lose sync, let's expand out the timeline again. And now when we lift the boom mic audio up one track, what we're doing is replacing the camera mic with the audio that we got from the boom mic, which will be a lot better. But as we look over here at the audio meters, we see that the audio that we recorded with the boom mic is only recording the left channel. And what that would mean is that if we just left it alone, when people watched our video, they would only hear her interview coming out over the left speaker and not the right. And so we want to change that. How do we do that? Well, we can come over to the actual audio track, A1, which is our interview audio. We've already defined that. Right-click in this area and select Change Track Type to Mono. And now Resolve will pan that audio to the center, and that way we'll be filling out the left and right tracks equally. So now, as we play it and look over at our audio meters, we see that both the left and the right track are being filled out. So we're good to go. We have our interview nicely synced up with some high quality audio. Now there's one more thing that we should do before we move on, and that is link these two tracks together, because right now they're two separate entities. One is the video track that we got with our camera, and the audio track is coming from a completely different device. But as we work with this interview and chop it up and move it around, we want to make sure that everything stays in sync and stays together. And so a good thing to do at this point is to link these two clips together. And you can do that just by lassoing both of them like this. And then let's just go up to the top menu and select Clip and look for the option Link Clips. And now these two separate media entities are one. Let's click outside of it, and now when we click the video, we see that the audio is also selected. So now, whatever we do with these two clips, whether we split them apart, move them around, even if we're just grabbing the video portion and not the audio portion, the two are always going to move together and keep in sync. For example, just let's expand this out, and let's split these two right here before she starts to talk. And if you're using Frank's keyboard shortcuts, that's just the C key to split them up. And now we can just lasso that portion and hit the delete key, and that's gone. And our interview starts right where she starts talking. And if we were to split it up again, notice that even if I only point to the video portion and move that around on the timeline, it's going to act as though it was the actual audio that was recorded with the video. And that's important to know and understand if you are using audio that was captured in a different way, that you can, after syncing them up, link the clips together so that they always will stay in sync no matter how you chop it up or move it around. Okay, so we've got her first little statement, and she's talking about how things used to be when she was a little girl. And but before we hear her talk, we want to have a little bit of an introduction to the video, maybe bring on a title, and so let's do that. Let's first of all put our music down, and for the purposes of this video tutorial, I've already chosen the music. Actually, I chose it back a couple of weeks ago when I was first putting this documentary together, so we'll use the same music. Okay, so here's our music, and what we want to do is look for, first of all, we've placed it on the wrong track. Let's drag that down to the music track as defined over here in the left-hand panel. We've decided to put our music down on audio track 4. So now we need to find a nice introductory wide shot, establishing shot clip to start the look and feel of the video. And so let's go to our B-roll bin and look for that shot. We're looking for a shot of her walking. Here's the one that I was thinking of. So we have a nice shot of her walking through her village. And so we want to maybe pick it up about here. And so when we find the right spot, remember what we do is hit the I key to set an in point. And let's maybe take it out to about there. Now, as I listen to this, we see that the ambient audio isn't going to help us that much. There's some wind noise, but we don't really hear her footsteps that much. So rather than drag the whole clip down, what I'm going to do is just drag the video down. And you can do that just by pointing, first of all, to the little film strip icon. So now when we drag this down, we're only bringing down the video portion, not the audio portion of the video. And let's see how this lines up with the music. Let's expand out our timeline a little bit and give it a listen. And so it's just about the right length. We might want to just have a few more frames in there before we cut to the next shot. The music changes right about there, so we'll maybe expand it out there and go for our next clip. And I think this is it right here. It's a shot of her working on her brooms. This is how she makes a living. And I like a little section in here where she looks up at the camera. For our next shot, we hear that there's more wind noise. I should have had a better dead cat on my onboard mic. So we'll just, again, use the video portion, not the ambient audio for this. We've got the music up quite a bit anyways here. It's establishing a kind of a feel for the video. So let's set our in point about here and our out point about there. And if it's not quite right, we can easily make adjustments once it's on the timeline. But let's drag down just the video portion again and place it on video track 1 with the other one. And let's play that and see how it looks. Well, that's not too bad. I think I'd like her to look up just a little sooner. So what we're going to do is trim it a little bit at the beginning of the clip. And you can do that by taking your mouse, going down to the very beginning portion of that video. You'll see that your mouse cursor changes from the arrow to a little trim symbol there, where we can now click down on our left mouse button. You see it changes to a green color on the edge. And now, as we move our mouse across, we are sliding back the beginning of that clip. And let's take it to about there, and then just point to the clip itself. You see it gets selected there with the red borders, and now we can just drag it back, and let's try it again. There, that's much better. And now I think we're ready to hear her interview, so let's drag that over. And notice both the audio and the video are selected. We can just drag it and pop it into place. All right, so we have a little bit too much handle at the beginning of that, so we'll do the same process again. We'll select the end of that, and we should really be able to see the audio waveform to get this precise. So let's remember, you can take your mouse anywhere in the audio section and just use your wheel to scroll up, or there's this little sidebar that you can use to scroll up and down to see the audio track that you want to work with. Sometimes, especially when you start expanding these audio tracks out, you can't see the audio track that you want to work on. If we wanted to work on the music, we'd want to be able to see it. We might want to scroll down and work with it there. But if we're wanting to work with the interview audio, it will really help us in our edit if we can see the audio waveform. Somehow we minimized that track. So let's grab hold of the very bottom part of A1 and drag that out so we can see it better. And what we're looking for is we're going to trim this clip right to the point where she starts speaking. And now let's take a look at that. And that's pretty good. We might make some adjustments as we go. We might set it up where we hear her voice before we see her speak, as we're bringing on titles and that type of thing. But for now, I think the timing works. But before we move too much further along in our video edit project, let's maybe add some graphics to the beginning of the video. Maybe a title, maybe a logo of the client. In fact, let's start with that. Let's go to our graphics bin and grab the logo of the organization that is working with these people in Kenya that are suffering from the drought. It's an organization called ADRA. And as I place the logo on, we see a couple of things. First of all, we see that it has a transparent background, and that's critical to bringing on a logo to a video. A lot of times the client will send you a logo that has a white background, and that's because they haven't sent it to you in the proper way. You need it in either an ESP format or a PNG format where the background has been saved as a transparent background. And if you haven't gotten that from the client, you need to email them and tell them to send it to you in that format. And as we place it on the timeline, we see that it's way too big. How can we change this? We don't want to fill up the screen with the logo, and so we need to resize it. How can we resize it? Well, the way that we do that in Resolve is with our inspector tool. And we can open up our inspector tool by this little menu option up here in the top right-hand corner and clicking on it. Now, whenever you open up the inspector tool panel, you're going to sacrifice one of your monitors. But it's still easy enough to edit with just the one monitor on a one-screen system. And I think we have showed you how to do that in some of the other videos that we've created. We'll maybe edit some of our video this way, and so you can get a feel for what that's like. But now that we have our video inspector open, it's just a matter of making sure that we first of all click on the media clip that has the logo so that it is selected with the red border. And now we can just go up to the zoom tool and start dragging it back. And then we can reposition it also with the position tool. So we can lift it up, bring it down, bring it over using the X. Now that's probably still a little bit big. Let me pull back on that a little bit more. And that's looking pretty good. Now we also want to maybe bring on the title presents. How do we start adding titles on top of this? We've placed this, you'll notice this graphic on our B-roll V2 track. Just because we've named something B-roll doesn't necessarily mean that everything in this track has to be B-roll. No, you can put a graphic there and you're still okay. And now we want to add a title, and we'll put the title on video track 3. And maybe we even want to rename it titles. And now the question is, how can we add a title in DaVinci Resolve? Well, I'm going to put another link to a video that I have created. It's a quick tips video on how to work with the title tool of Resolve. And that way, if you've never done a title before in DaVinci Resolve, that video will be the one that you want to watch. For today, we're just going to create the title without a lot of explanation. But if you need more help on how to create a title, just check the description below, and that will give you the link to that video. But how you do it basically, again, because we're only working with one screen here instead of two monitors on our computer system, we're really having to share our real estate space here. And so while we have this panel showing all of our media pool clips, all of our bins, what we need to do if we want to create a title is we need to swap this panel out, this media pool panel, with our effects panel. And you can do that by going up to the top ribbon menu and finding this wonderful icon here of a magic wand. So just click on that, and now we have a number of tools in this effects toolbox. You'll notice we have video transitions, audio transitions, effects, all sorts of special effects. And as you purchase third-party effects, they'll go in here as well. But today what we're looking for is titles. So let's click on titles. And in the quick tips video that I linked to in the description below, we demonstrate how to work with the basic title. But for this opening shot here for this little documentary, I want a little bit more flair to the title than just using the basic title. So I'm going to go down to the fusion titles. And here, when you choose one of these fusion titles, you're going to have a little bit more animation to your title. And what I'm looking for is the fade on. Here it is here. So when you find the title that you want to work with, you simply drag and drop that down to your timeline. And we're going to put it on video track 3. And now we see our title is showing up on our video with the default text called sample text. And we see that it is even doing a nice little animation. If we played this slowly, we see that it kind of fades on and kind of moves apart and fades off. So that adds a little bit more flair to the title that we want to bring on. Now it's a little bit too long, so let's shorten that again by using our mouse and just finding the edge of it and bringing it back so that it's the same length as the opening clip itself. So now how do we work with this and change it to show the text that we want and animate it the way we want to bring it in? Well, first of all, we need to select it. Take your mouse and click on it, and you'll see that it has the red borders. And now when we go up to our inspector tool, we see that the title is showing up in the inspector panel. We see the sample text right there. And what we want to do is, first of all, change this to presents. And the next thing we want to do is position that so it's below the logo. So let's go over to settings and choose the position tool and bring this presents down below. We might want to bring it over a little bit, maybe down just a little bit more. And now let's take a look at how this animates on and see if we're happy with that. Well, that's pretty good. However, as I look at it, my preference would be not to have each individual letter so far apart right at the beginning of the animation. So let's go back to, let's click on our title tab here, and let's just take our mouse and highlight the text there and change the tracking at this point where this timeline cursor is set. Whatever change we make now is going to change how it looks when it first comes on. And I'd like to have the text a little bit something more like that as we first see it. And now let's take a look at how this animates on. Oh, first of all, we see that the logo just pops on. I'm not a big fan of things popping on like that. Well, how can we fade that on? Well, you could go to video transitions and add a fade onto the end of this, but it's a lot easier just to go to the clip itself, and as soon as you hover your mouse over that clip, you see that right at the end of the video there's a little marker that pops up right at the end. Well, if you can take your mouse and get right to that point where the marker is and click down, change it from white to red like that, and then just slide your mouse across, now we're fading on, and the longer you drag it, the longer the fade will be. So let's take a look at how that looks. That's not bad. Maybe we'll just have it a little bit longer. Okay, I kind of like that. Now, as we watch the whole animation, we see that it's not quite lined up at the end there as it fades out. We might want to have it lined up with the edge of the logo. So we'll just go back to settings and position that so that at this point in the animation, it's lining up with the logo, the edge of the logo, just as it fades off. So let's take one more look at that. And we probably want to have the logo fade off as well. So let's just drag the other end off so that the logo is fading out at the same time as the text is. Not quite soon enough. So that looks pretty good. All right, I think that that's probably enough for today. Well, maybe we'll add one more text. Let's add the title of the actual video. Let's go back to our title tools. Let's use the fusion effect again for our title. Just go to our title tool and drag and drop it into place. Now, by default, Resolve gives you 5 seconds of media when you just drag and drop something onto place. And so we see that it ends up being a little bit longer than the actual clip that we used of her working on her brooms. And what I would do normally is drag this back so that it's the same length. However, I think what I decided in the end was to extend the shot of her working on her brooms so that we can see the title of the video a little bit longer than 3 seconds. So how can we extend this clip of her working on her brooms to last a little bit longer at this point? I think what we want to do is still hear the audio of her starting to talk. And so what we want to do is extend this clip so it overwrites the first portion of her talking. And you could do that a couple of different ways. You could temporarily lift her up, drag this over, and drop it back down. And that would, by dropping it back down to video track 1, you're overwriting her. And now you would continue to see her working on her brooms while you hear her start to talk. There's another way. Let's just undo that. Select this clip right where it is on track 1 and just get your mouse to the very edge of it and click down with your left mouse button, and you'll see that the border of your first clip turns green, and now as we scroll it across, we can overwrite the interview to the point where we want to. All right, and that's probably a little bit easier than moving that clip around and dragging it back down. It's a lot quicker to do it this way. All right, so now we've got a little extra room to bring on our title. So let's select our title by pointing to it and choose the title tab here. I have to scroll up a little bit to see it, and let's just replace the sample text with the title of the video. And once again, I think we have the same situation where the letters are too far apart, even as it first comes on. For my liking, anyway, my taste. And so I'm going to change that by going down to tracking and bring those closer together so that when it first comes on, the letters aren't so far apart. And you can also adjust the amount of space that you have between the two lines here, as well as the total size of the title. You've got all sorts of tools there. Okay, and we'll probably want to reposition it. So let's go over to settings and bring it down, maybe bring it over, and let's take a look. All right, well, that gives us a pretty good start on our video edit project, and we'll pick it up again right here where we left off in our next lesson as you do the over-the-shoulder, step-by-step assembly of a typical video edit here at Learning Media Skills. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. If so, give it a like. That always helps our channel grow. And if you haven't already done so, I invite you to subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time here at Learning Media Skills. So long for today.